morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today I am going to swatch my new skin tone art markers as well as do some coloring. I'm going to be creating a card using these adorable cows and this Trinity stamp set. So that is the plan for this live. So I ordered these markers because I feel like my Spectrum Noir markers are lacking in the skin tone area, and so I have a lot of stamps that are of people, and I tend to avoid coloring them because I never know which color to pick. I guess I don't have the right colors of markers to choose from, and so I got some and I'm hoping that I'll like these. So I just ordered these on Amazon and I opened them up and they had a little swatch card in there, and I think that will help me choose my colors. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This is the first time that I am using markers like this. They're Ohuhu and I think this is Kala. They're an interesting shape, so they're not a round barrel. It's more oblong, and it's also wider on one side than the other. So the wide side is where the slim broad tip is going to be. That's the chisel. And then the other side is going to be the fine tip. So I think I'll use the broad for my swatches. So I'll start here and I'm just going to do one swipe, and that will give me my colors, so they should go pretty quick. 5, 5, 1, 1. They're probably in order, but I will take a moment to just check and make sure as I'm going. I know they're skin tone markers, but I think they will work great for my little caroling cows. Oops. All right, burnt sienna. So far, I like the way the marker feels in my hand. I like the way it puts down ink. I haven't noticed anything weird with these, so looks like I skipped one. Sandstone. I'd love to hear what kind of alcohol markers you use if you color with alcohol markers. This is roasted cashew. It's very warm in Arizona today. Not as warm as it's been the last couple of days, but these sat on my porch for about 1 minute, and they're warm in my hand. I'm sure they're warm from being on the Amazon truck. I always worry about things like that. Are they going to explode on their way here because it's so hot? The alcohol in them is going to boil or something. I don't know. They are just fine. This is burnt ochre. These are nice colors. I'm very happy with these so far. Cappuccino. This one's slippery. The paper they included for the swatches is really thick. It feels like maybe watercolor paper. So I did notice it's kind of skipping from the way that I was holding it, but I think that's just because of how thick the paper is. All right, YR25, this is powder orange. I always think it must be such a fun job to get to name colors. I suppose you could name your own colors whatever you like, but imagine it's your job to look at a color and you get to be the one to name it. Just sounds like a lot of fun. This one looks a little dirty. This is Pastel Peach. Rose Cream is up next. Definitely liking these more than the colors that I have in my Spectrum Noirs for skin tones. This is Baby Pink. Though I have never seen a skin quite so pink, maybe when they're blushing. Light Rose Taupe is up next. This is our last row. We've got Old Mahogany. And I don't even know how to say that. Do you know how to say that? Kaput Boredom. I do not recognize those words. Dusty Peach. That's a nice skin tone. I like that better than that. And maybe, you know, this would be good for some rosy cheeks or some highlights. Peach Silk. And Potato Brown. That is a nice deep brown. And finally, Peach Cream. All right, so there are my new art markers all swatched out, and I'm going to use these colors along with a few more for my stash. I don't think I'll have everything that I need here to do some coloring. This stamp set is from Trinity Stamps, and we've got 3 cute little cows, and they're caroling, and I just think that's really funny. Our sentiments are heifer self a dairy little Christmas, and a happy moo year, mooey Christmas. And here we come, a cowling. How funny. Hello, Cassia Coloring. How's your day going? So I'm using my Misty stamping tool. If you've never seen a tool like this before, it is amazing for using clear stamps. So traditionally, people who were using stamps for hobby purposes, and this started about 50 years ago, they were using rubber stamps on a wood block. And these are great and they leave a great impression. But one problem with a rubber stamp is that when you are stamping, you can't see exactly where your image is. And this one looks like it's lined up pretty closely with the other side, but a lot of times they're not, and they're hardly ever exactly lined up. So even if you think like, oh, this is exactly where I want my image to be, it's probably shifted up, down, left, or right from there. Another issue is just how large they are, how much space they take up. This is an oldie, April '93. Take up a lot of space, and if you stamp once and it doesn't give you a perfect impression, then you just have to live with it. And so I might even just show you what I'm talking about here. So I've got a sheet of scratch paper. I've got an ink pad here. This is VersaFine Clair. This is a very nice stamping ink. So not all inks are created equal. So I'll start by saying that. But this is a very nice ink, and I've been stamping a long time, so go back over it. But I can't re-stamp it because I'm never going to be able to line this up perfectly to stamp over it again. So difference with clear stamps is that obviously you can see through them, so you can see exactly where you're going to be placing it. And when you have a tool like a MISTI, which is this thing, you can actually stamp over and over again in the same place as many times as you need to get a great impression. And you are going to see that when I do my little cow stamping here. So this stamp has not been used before. It's very sticky. I'm going to line it up where I like it on my card. And just trying to make that look as straight as I can. There are grid lines on this, so when I close the door, I can see if that looks straight across, and it does. Now this is very sticky, so it's probably gonna pull up my paper a little bit. That's okay. I've got it taped, and I'm also gonna put a magnet down here just to hold it in. The back of this is metal, so the magnet will help hold it in place. And then I'm gonna be inking up the stamp on this side. Now, when you use a new clear stamp, I'm touching this, I don't know if you can hear, it's really sticky. And what that is residue from the manufacturing process. And I mean, it's good to have a little bit of stick there that'll help the ink stick to it, but we don't want it to stick to our paper, and we want to have a good impression. So we need to condition this stamp first. And there are a few different ways that you can do that. One thing you could do is use an eraser, like a rubber eraser. I would use a white one and just gently go over the top. But you can actually just use your skin and the oils on your skin and just keep going over it. And that's usually what I tend to do, just until it stops feeling so sticky. You can also use a clear ink called VersaFine, VersaFine Clear, or oh gosh, I use it all the time. What's it called? Let me pull it out. Versamark. I'm like, what is it called? This is a popular brand of clear ink. You could use this and stamp that once. That does a good job of conditioning the stamp as well. But I find most of the time I'm just using the oil off of my skin, and that works really well to do what we needed to do. All right, so the next step is going to be inking our stamp up. I'm using VersaFine Clair black ink. Oh, actually, you know what? This is not the ink that I want to use, because this is not alcohol marker friendly. So what I'm going to do is, since I already started, I'm going to ink this and stamp it, and then I'll color this one later with colored pencils. And then I'll stamp again in an alcohol marker ink friendly ink. All right, so you're going to see here, it's not stamped perfect. There's areas that don't have any ink on them at all, and it's just a little bit blurry. But that is no big deal, because when you're using a tool like the MISTI, you just ink your stamp again. I'm just going back over my stamp, and then push it down again. So because of this hinge system, the stamp goes right back onto your paper, right where it was before, and now you can add ink back to the same place. So it's better after two. I usually end up inking my things 3 times, sometimes 4 times, to get the dark black crisp inking that I need. Yes, these are caroling cows. Caroling cows from Trinity Stamps. It's July, and I am celebrating Christmas in July by making some Christmas cards this month. This one is for a 1-card swap in a card making group that I'm part of, but I also need to make a bunch for another swap that I'm doing. So do you see there in the middle, there's still some areas that aren't perfect, and some people would just leave that, and I can't can't. I'm not that person. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a little more ink. Hello, Dawn. All right. Look at these cute caroling cows. Okay, that one spot, that really bothers me. It's so close, but it's just not quite right. Just add a little more. Add a little more. Just keep going until it's good. And you know, this one I'm coloring with the colored pencils. I think this is gonna turn out great. Okay, so if you weren't here a moment ago, I stamped this in VersaFine Clair, and I was going to color with my alcohol markers, but this is not alcohol marker friendly. So another option I have is I could heat emboss this, and then I could color with my markers, but I think I'm just going to restamp with a Lawn Fawn black ink and then not have to worry about that extra step. So I'm just grabbing my other ink pad, and this one, Lawn Fawn Jet Black. This one, it's not as dark. It will possibly take me more layers than this other one did to get it the way that I like it, but it won't run with my alcohol markers. Yes, Dawn, I am going to be on Craft Roulette next Friday, actually. I'm so excited. Mary Gun Fun emailed me a couple of months ago to see if I'd be interested, and I cannot wait to be a guest on the show. And it was really great encouragement for me too to do more lives so I can make sure all my tech works. So it was a little push that I needed. It was something I'd been meaning to do, and I thought, you know, I should probably make sure everything works before I go on her wonderful show. If you haven't heard of Craft Roulette before, it is a YouTube card making. It's not exactly a game show because while it is a game, the guest crafter is just crafting along with Mary, and then everyone at home can be crafting along too. And so they spin a wheel and they choose 4 parameters for the card. So they spin for a project type, which might be the size of the card. They spin for a color theme. They spin for an element. And then the last parameter is random, and you never know what you're gonna get. So Mary will create a card. The guest crafter will create a card, and then everyone at home is invited to create a card with those parameters as well and submit them to the community. It's so fun. They started about 5 years ago, and it was, I mean, it's still a big hit now, but I think it was definitely a big hit during the pandemic when people were stuck at home by themselves, and it was a great way to be part of a bigger community and do something fun and get your mind off of everything else that was going on, which, you know, is still a thing today. Sometimes we just need to escape into our creative hobbies and relax a little bit. All right, these cows are so much fun. I think because the lines are so thick on them though, it really is taking a lot of ink. This is a good reminder for me. So I'm creating this card for a swap, but I also need to create 10 identical cards for a different swap I'm doing this month. And the theme is Christmas. And this is just reminding me that I do not want to do a big stamp on them. I think I'm going to do more die cutting for those cards. It annoys me a little bit less than stamping 6 times for 10 cards. I think I'll be annoyed. And then for a sentiment, we've got Have Herself a Dairy Little Christmas. And that is like, I like puns, but this is a little too much for me. I would rather it said, have yourself a Dairy Little Christmas in just one word as a pun. I think that would be better. And a Happy Moo Year, I think that's good. Mooey Christmas. And Here We Come a Caroling. So I think I'm gonna do that one because, like I said, this one, it's just too many puns for me, and this one is a little bit simpler. Okay. Trying to get that straight in there. Is anyone else starting on Christmas cards this month? Doing any Christmas in July crafting? I'd also like to know if anyone has a favorite black ink for their alcohol markers. I've been using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink for a very long time for alcohol marker coloring. I don't think that I used another one before that. I think it was the first one that I started with, and I have not strayed away. I will say that VersaFine Clair, and I use the black, the Nocturne, I had no idea that an ink could be so dark and wonderful on a first stamping. I did not know. So if I was gonna use this with a rubber stamp, I feel pretty confident that I could get a decent stamping in one go. And I do not feel that way about this ink. It's great for alcohol marker because it doesn't run, but it's just not the same color, and it's just not the same, well, it's not the same formulation, so you can't expect it to act the same. But just wondering if anybody else has a great alcohol marker friendly black ink. Oh man, let's get that out of the way. Okay. At the beginning of the live, I showed my new alcohol markers and swatched those out. So my Spectrum Noirs, which I've had for a long time and I love, they're not going anywhere, but I really wanted some additional skin tone colors. So these are the swatches. These are those new markers, and I definitely do think that they're gonna help me when it comes to coloring people. These are cows, not people, but I still think I think I'm gonna get good results with this. And the thing that really made me think about it is I was doing some stamping with Kindred stamps, and I have a ton of Kindred stamps. I love all of the fandom sets that they have. I'm just gonna grab a couple. Make sure they're not the X-rated ones. Okay. They have all these fandom sets, super fun, but lots of them are people, and I find that I can't choose the markers to color them in because I don't feel like I have the right colors. And so that's why I picked up this additional set of markers, so that I would not have that would not have that mental block when it comes to coloring. Dawn, you said you use Memento ink. The Memento ink, oh gosh. I'm trying to think if I have a Memento pad. It's alcohol marker friendly though. Now I have to pick colors for these cows. So I think I like this color. I'm just gonna go from right to left. This is my first time really coloring with these. So far so good. They're very juicy, but they're not too much. They're not bleeding out everywhere. That's a good sign. Seems to be blending into itself nicely. I think I'm gonna like these. They have great reviews. I wasn't worried that I was getting a junk product. Okay, so Dawn, I'm gonna check my stash later and see if I picked up a black memento at some point and try it out. I feel like there was a moment where I was convinced I needed a new ink and I bought 3 or 4 different pads. This was one of them though, and I don't even remember what happened to the rest. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I found what I've been looking for. But the alcohol marker thing is important, so. I do love a good pun. I feel like there's just limits to puns for me, and I know some people's pun limit is 0, and I think that's okay too, but I'd love to hear how you feel about puns and punny jokes. I have a couple of group chats with friends, and pretty much the only thing we send each other are punny jokes. This would not qualify. This is not good enough for that group, but dad jokes usually hit the spot for me, but just depends on how much of a stretch it is, I guess. For my guy in the middle, I think I want to go a little bit lighter. So I think I like this roasted cashew color. Let's see if I can find it in here. Holy cow. See, I like that. I like that. I have a couple of other cow sets that are not Christmas that have some good cow puns. I think my favorite is Cows It Going. And I think a pun like that works because, you know, it's just one letter different. It's not so much that it's like a stretch, you know. Cows It Going. I like these markers. So I was reading that they designed them to be more ergonomic. It doesn't have a round barrel, it's more oblong, and it really does feel nice in my hand. And even with an alcohol marker friendly ink, you just never know with yellow tones. They're a little bit tricky. I wasn't totally sure about this roasted cashew color, but seems to be doing all right. I can't think of the name of the cow right now, but the cows that have the cute fluffy hair on their head, they're a little bit trendy right now. I've been seeing them more in memes and stamp sets and things. One of my girlfriends always sends me pictures of them. They're so cute. I imagine this guy is one of those cows with a fluffy tuft on his head. Highland cows, that's exactly it. Exactly it. Oh, and I'm looking Jingle Bowls. That is funny. Yes. Maybe, you know, I was talking earlier about what a fun job it would be to get to name colors. You know, somebody got paid to name the colors of these markers. But I also think it would be fun if your job was just to write puns. So, all right, so I want this cow to be dark again. I think I'm gonna go with the cherry cola. I think that will look nice. And he's got some white spots on his body, and I could add some to the other cows as well, but I think I'm just gonna do this one that way with the whites. I think Highland cows are adorable, also baby cows, and the adult cows they're not bad either. I also love pigs. Definitely the little ones, definitely the babies. The big ones are so funny. I grew up in Ohio and I ended up at a livestock auction once. And I just, you know, even though I grew up near farms and everything smells like farms all the time and you drive past farms every day, I just had no idea how big livestock can get. So I just remember seeing these cows, I think they were called limousine cows, and they were so massive. And then the pigs and they were like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So large. I just never occurred to me that our farm animals get so big. We're mostly talking about crafting here. I don't eat meat, so I love my cows and I love my pigs, and I don't eat them. So when it comes to puns, I try to avoid the puns that refer to our animal friends as food too. It's another limitation on my puns. You know, the smell of the fields, it was never a bad smell for me because, I mean, I guess I was used to it. I smelled it every day, but I almost miss it sometimes. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think that's weird at all, Dawn. I'm glad I'm not the only one who is surprised at how big the animals get. And you know, like as a teacher, and talking to students and just kind of hearing about, you know, what to expect from students and things, sometimes, you know, our kids don't even realize where our food comes from, or that chicken wings come from birds. And so it's so interesting how disconnected we are from, you know, our food sources, and animals are definitely part of that. Oh, a potbelly pig, how cute. I would have sold a kidney when I was a kid to have a potbelly pig in the house. I was never able to convince my mom it was a good idea, so we just had a menagerie of other animals, but no piggies. Speaking of animals, my friend Elise was telling me that Phoenix has a cat cafe now, and I've been to one in, I think it was Seattle or Portland. It was a while ago, but cat cafe is where you can go and get a coffee and hang out with cats, and usually, you know, they're up for adoption and they're taking donations and they're supporting local shelters and that kind of thing. And I had no idea that Phoenix actually has one now. It opened a few years ago, and she's like, we should go. And I want to go because I want to pet all the cats, but also we cannot have a cat right now. And my husband and I both desperately want cats, but we've decided that we are going to let our dog, Coleman, live out his remaining years in peace with no felines. So we had a cat a while ago. He got really sick. It's a sad story, but and they did well together. But Coleman really likes to be the only animal, and I can tell that. And so we have decided no cats. And so I had to tell Elise that I cannot go with her because I cannot be tempted by all the kitties that are up for adoption in the cat cafe. Goat yoga. Okay, so Dawn's talking about goat yoga in the chat. We have that here too. And I don't know if it's true. I mean, you never know when you hear things online or even when you talk to people, but I heard that goat yoga started out here, and something like the wife taught yoga and the husband like raised goats, and they decided they wanted to combine them. And that's how goat yoga was formed. It was like literally just a random idea. And I hope that that story is true because it's really cute. And yeah, it's definitely popular. I have not had a chance to visit yet, but I hope that I will get to do that. Maybe when it cools down, maybe this winter. It's almost an hour from where I live. So it's like, if you live in a big metropolis, Phoenix is a big sprawling place just on its own, but it's also connected to Mesa and Chandler and Gilbert and Glendale and Scottsdale and Surprise and Buckeye and Goodyear and all of these other cities, and they're all kind of merged together. And so you're driving and there's nothing in between the cities. It's like you're in one, now you're in the other, now you're in the other, now you're in the other. And when you drive an hour and it feels like you're still in the same city, it just feels far. So growing up in rural Ohio, driving an hour to get somewhere didn't feel like a big deal because it felt like you were actually getting somewhere. You were leaving, you were going somewhere else. And here it's like, I'm still in the same place and I've been driving an hour. I know I'm just on the other side of town, so I don't know what it is, but I don't love driving an hour and still being kind of in the metro. But for the goats, someday I will make it out there. I think these cows are turning out pretty cute. I think I'm gonna need to bring in some other colors here shortly. I think I'm gonna give them some festive colored hats and scarves, but maybe I'll do their hooves. Flagstaff. Okay, Flagstaff, that is 2 hours from where I live, and it is wonderful, and I do not mind driving to Flagstaff because you're actually going somewhere. And it is a beautiful place. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit, Dawn, but my husband and I were up there last week to go camping, and it's just at a high elevation. Flagstaff's at 7,000 or 8,000 feet, and so it's a lot cooler, especially in the summer when it's 115 in Phoenix. You know, maybe it's only 80 or 90 up there. And the drive between Phoenix and Flagstaff is so gorgeous. And you travel through all of these different zones because you're going up in elevation. And so you're starting in the Sonoran Desert and you're making your way up to like the Alpine area, and the scenery is just constantly changing. There's gorgeous mountains. You drive past Sedona, so you see all the Red Rock and all the cool formations, and it is an amazing drive. So I would rather drive 2 hours and go to Flagstaff than drive 1 hour and go to Gilbert. I'm just catching up on my messages real quick. Oh, the Grand Canyon. Oh, I love the Grand Canyon. A Potter, how awesome. Yeah, so the Grand Canyon is another hour or so from Flagstaff proper. I'm not sure which side of the city he lives on, but I have been to the Grand Canyon so many times. I'm so fortunate that I've been able to do that. I visited just to see it several times, you know, just as a tourist, but I have gotten to do a lot of hiking there, and hiking down to the river and back up, hiking across the canyon. Last year, I got to do a 4-day backpacking trip in the Grand Canyon, and as if that is not amazing enough, one of my good friends, Scott, who might be here. Scott, if you're here, hi, I'm thinking about you. He and his lovely fiance, Rachel, they got married at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, right on the Colorado River. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, and one of the coolest trips I've ever been on. So I feel very, very fortunate that I've got to spend so much time in the canyon, and I've lived in Arizona since about 2007, and I'm sure I've been to the Grand Canyon more than 20 times, and my husband, he's from here, he's lived here forever, and I took him there for his 40th birthday, and it was the first time he'd ever seen it. So just because you're here doesn't mean that you've seen it, but I'm very thankful that I've made that effort. It helps though that I have an adventurous hobby and that I have adventurous friends who want to go and hike the Grand Canyon, because if you don't have people to go with, it makes it a lot harder, that's for sure. Don, your friend sounds very cool. Don said, passing out candy canes and dog biscuits. Scott, you are here. Hi, how are you doing? Are you drinking enough water? I've been thinking about you. I hope you're taking care of yourself. It really was an amazing trip of a lifetime for sure. All right, I need some other colors for my hats and scarves. I guess we're going with reds and greens. Hi, Rachel. Aw, it's so sweet of you to jump in and see what's going on. I know this is not your main hobby or how you normally spend your Wednesday nights, so I appreciate you taking a moment out to see what I'm doing over here in Arizona. Hi to those of you that are just joining. Yes, Scott and Rachel got married at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It was incredible. I saw the whole thing. And they're coming back to Arizona in 2 weeks to visit. So I'm very much looking forward to that too. I think I'll do a lighter red for this last hat. There we go. I don't feel like picking out more colors, so I'm going to use these same 3 for my scarves. And then we're going to call this done. Yes, Vixel, are you Rachel? Hi, Crafty Warrior. Rachel, yay, hi. How are you doing out there? Has the heat dome passed? I heard it's been awful. Scott and Rachel are out in the West Virginia area. And all my friends back in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania have just been roasting. So, oh good. Glad it wasn't too hot today. Our temperature was supposed to be about 12 degrees cooler today than it's been, and oh, it was not. It was still like 113 today on my patio. I don't know what the official recording is, but it was hot enough that I did not want to go outside for even one moment. Ugh. Hot and Maine should not be a sentence that exists. Hot and Maine should not be a thing. Unless hot in Maine is like 75. Ew, 87, 80% humidity. I don't like that, no. It was 117 the other day, but it was only 8% humidity. And so that is quite a bit different. Although our air quality was pretty awful yesterday. I went outside, we went to the gym in the morning, and something didn't feel right immediately. It was very hazy, and I wasn't sure, is it, you know, was there a wildfire, or maybe I missed something in the news, and it was just dust and just pollution. And my friend posted a picture of her app, and it said that the air quality was at 500, which is like the top. That's the top of the chart. That's as bad as it gets. So I can't vouch and say that that is true, because I did not see it myself. But she posted like, hey, if you're going outside, you should probably wear a mask today because it's bad. But it's gonna cool down. It's gonna cool down. I think it's only gonna be 99 tomorrow or something like that. And as for the dry heat, it is definitely better than the humid heat. 100%. Yes, I know that I have it good in that regard. All right, well, I am all finished with my coloring. I'll probably go back later and add some white highlights to this before I glue it onto a card. But thanks so much for hanging out and chatting with me. Scott and Rachel, looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Dawn, always a pleasure to chat with you. Everybody else that's here, thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Have a great evening.